Welcome everybody to week 17, day 2. I'm back from surgery and raring to go. So today we're going to go over a few important bits. Scavengers. Necromundia, hired gun. Are you guys following the Apple versus Unreal lawsuit? That's been kind of a wild ride. Like all the different companies doing depositions and things like that. Like Nintendo has a clause like you can't have any associations with the Yakuza in order to do development for the Switch. It's kind of amusing. All right. Come back into spring 2021. I've got access to MetaHuman Creator. Have I gone over that? It's kind of cool. Needs to be rebuilt. Okay. So we've got our nav mesh there. Okay. So nav meshes are used if you're going to have AI pathing around and stuff like that. It's very useful stuff. You have to apply a nav mesh, and then it figures out where it can go from one place to another on it. Let's see. How do we hide that? Walker, do you remember what the key is? It's R to turn it on. Do you remember what it is to turn it off?
Turn off what? The nav mesh?
The nav mesh, yeah.
It's P.
P.
Sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. As with most things in UV4.
Okay, there we go. There. P, not R. Thank you. Okay. So we've got a world here. We've got water. We've got fog. We've got textures. We've got a nav mesh for AI. Got materials. Bump maps. AI that can spot you. Sockets. Animations. Refraction. I think the biggest thing we need is just we got basic HUDs. We haven't done the more advanced stuff yet. Yeah, let's just go over like architecting a game from start to finish. I guess that seems useful. So the finish part, which is useful for Stafford or Span, is the package project thing here. So if you're gonna send me a copy of your game to run, go over to this and hit package project for Windows 64-bit, and that'll actually make it suitable for distribution to other people. I don't need your project file. All I need is the finished executable for me to look at. So yeah. So the development process you should go through when making a game is to start off with, once you got your basic skills, which is what this class is about. How do you make a light? How do you make a texture? How do you make a landscape? How do you make architecture? You sort of have to develop these basic skills, but then after that, you actually have to get into the actual hard work of making a game, which can be hard work, as Walker can probably attest to, right? Are you going to want the source for being JT and Muya's game? Yeah. Yeah, I do. And so actually making a good game and a fun game is a lot of work, but it's fun because like you're actually being creative and getting to build things and not just play them. It's a really neat experience, especially when you have like an idea for something and the idea works out and like people dig it and they say it's fun and they're playing it, like they're trying out like new things and they're like into it. Like that's a good feeling. And that's something that you don't get if you're into like I don't know, business to business code, working in the avionics field or something like that. Like people don't go, your new system for inventorying screws, it's amazing. such a good time with it. Like it, I mean, I guess it could happen, but it's probably not too common. Fun but very difficult to make work properly. Yeah. So the the ending point is that package thing. So I'd like any of you guys that have not yet had me grade their project, go to package it for Windows 64-bit, and then put that up on Dropbox or Google Files or something for me to get. Okay, so that's the ending point. So the beginning point is something called a minimal viable product, MVP. And so for a minimal viable product, what you want is something that will demonstrate that your game works, that your game is fun, right? You don't need to have 100 levels, you need to have one level. You know, you don't have to have 30 monsters, you need to have maybe 2 monsters. You know, enough of like a tech demo kind of thing that when an executive looks at it, they go like, all right, yeah, I see the promise of that. Let's throw some money behind that and get you funded. Okay. And usually in order to make a minimum valuable product, you could start off by writing the engine yourself. Like in IS50B, we've spent a lot of time this semester doing a lot of C++ coding, like making graphics engine level stuff. Probably a little bit more code heavy than it should have been. I think we kind of lost some of the non-codey students in that class. So maybe next semester, if you guys take it, it'll be a little lighter on the coding front. Yeah, start with an engine and slap something together, right? And then iterate on it and iterate on it and iterate on it. You want to have a sense of what makes your game fun first and foremost from the beginning. What makes your game different? Like, don't just be like, I'm just going to make a shooty game and click and people die. Like, you've all gamed enough, I think. I don't think there's too many people in this class that aren't gamers. You know, I think there might be a couple. Might be needed in the future to do OpenGL. Yeah, we could do that. However, doing it from scratch, you know, is like, I don't know. Like, you actually understand how, if you do it, Walker, you would actually understand how rasterization works, right? You have a triangle and you put the pixels from the triangle on the screen. And you have another triangle and you put those pixels on the screen, and the ones that are in front are drawn in front. And that rasterization pipeline is a big part of game development. I know you're busy. And so, yeah, I'll probably have to think about it and revise it a little bit. So I don't like having students just kind of like sitting there like not doing homework. You know, if you're in a class, like, what's the point of being in a class if you're not doing the homework? You know what I mean? So I'll think about it and refresh it for next semester. Okay. Yeah. So you want to have from the very beginning a sense of what makes your game fun. Like, why? Like, what's the hook? Like, you should have like this burning like passion, you know, inside of your chest. Like, oh man, I really want this, you know, to exist. And you can, you know, that passion will help you will it into reality, right? Like, I played a lot of Team Fortress. I played, you know, what would today be considered ranked or competitive Team Fortress back in the day. And there were things that bugged me about it, right? And you have to really play a game a lot, by the way, to be able to make an informed decision about a game. Sometimes it's obvious when there's a problem, and sometimes if a game doesn't work well for like newbies, then that's a problem in and of itself. But like, you know, like in Age of Empires 2, when people say that paladins are overpowered, it's like, well, there's counters to them. You know, like, everybody can either build pikemen or camels. There's a counter. You just didn't know what the counter was. Is that the game's fault? Maybe. You know, because maybe the game should be like explaining the rock, paper, scissors a little bit better. I don't know. Try now. So, you know, you really need to get into a game a lot and really play it a lot. And that's why I spent class time playing Custom Team Fortress with you guys, because you have to play it to understand it at least a little bit before you can mod it. And so, like, for me, the burning passion was, I like Team Fortress, but it would be really, really neat if I could mix and match the different class features. If I could take a sniper and give him a flamethrower, right? Or if I can take a guy with a flamethrower and turn him invisible or something like that. And I wanted it to happen. And so you have to have the passion to begin with, and you have to have an idea, like a core vision of like what makes something fun. Like, because there's so many just derivative clones, and making a derivative clone is okay if you're EA, right? Because people keep buying Call of Duty over and over again for some reason. I'm not sure why, but they do. It's okay for them because they put the time and the polish into it that people buy it. If you're an indie game developer making a cheap Call of Duty clone, like, you know, there's 1,000 of them coming out a day or something like that. You know, nobody plays them, right? So you have to have a really core sense of like doing something a little bit different. You know, it doesn't have to be a lot different, but it has to be at least a little bit different. Overwatch was Team Fortress with MOBA style abilities added. Everybody gets 3 core abilities and 1 ult, you know, which is taken straight from like League of Legends and Dota. And we're gonna take that model and put it in, slap it onto Team Fortress, and there we go. Right? It doesn't have to be super unique because neither of those ideas were unique, but that combination was unique, and they put their Blizzard polish on it. And Overwatch is an okay game. Like, it's not. I'm gonna make a 2D pixel art platformer that doesn't do anything new or interesting, and wonder why nobody wants to play it yet. Yeah, it's like, you know, Braid. You know, have you guys ever seen Braid? The amount of Mario clones is endless. Yeah, and especially now that they have like Mario Maker, where people can literally inside of Mario make Mario games. It's like, why would I want to play your indie game that has bad controls? You know. There's a concept called juicy gaming, and when you have a juicy game, there's things like when Mario turns in the original Super Mario Brothers. When Mario turns, there's a little cloud of dust that gets kicked up by him, because when he turns, he doesn't come to an immediate stop. He kind of skids for a second, and there's a little cloud of dust that comes up. And adding those little touches that make the game juicy is a real big part of having a nice, polished game that people want to play. So, they're doing Harlan just linked me that thing last night. Game Builder Garage. It looks really cool, and so I think you have to have a Switch for it. So I probably can't do it in this class, but you know, you have to start off with a really, you know, good idea. And by good, I don't mean, again, it doesn't have to be 100% unique. I took Team Fortress and combined it with BattleTech essentially. So BattleTech was and is a board game. It's also a computer game series called Mech Warrior. It's also a role-playing game. But I played BattleTech, the board game. And you have mechas, giant mech combats, and you can customize them. And so you can take an autocannon off and add more armor. Or you can increase the size of the engine, which increases the weight, so you have to take armor off. And so all the mechs have a tonnage limit on them, and you can, within certain boundaries, adjust the tonnage up, adjust the tonnage down of, you know, weaponry, armor, ammo, engine, jetpacks. And so by playing with these values, you can really come up with, and then you have multiple mechs, and so you can come up with really interesting tactics and things like that. And I did, I guess, competitive BattleTech gaming. Like, I entered a official tournament when I was in middle school, turned a blood name in the clans and stuff like that, and did pretty well too. I would have won, except the judges got bored by my tactics. So I had a gun that could only fire once every 3 turns, and so what my tactic was, and it was pretty unbeatable, was I just would run away. I had a high speed. I just had one giant gun that could fire once every 3 turns, and so I built my mecha to just run away. And if you have more than 2 wood tiles between you and the opponent, there's no line of sight. Nobody can shoot you. So I just run and hide behind the trees for 3 turns, pop out, shoot him with my giant big FG, and then dip back behind the trees again for 3 rounds. And the judge, this was the final round, and I'm like winning because the other guy is like, he can't catch up to me. I'm just kiting him and just blowing off big chunks of him every 3 turns. They're like, I'm bored. All the trees turn off. I'm like, what? They're like, we're turning off all the trees. And then I just got eliminated, you know, because the guy runs up and shoots me with like 40 lasers at once, and I explode. I was like, come on, guys. Like, you know. But I was into that whole BattleTech thing because I liked that notion. Like I found some niche that nobody had done before. Maybe they had. Who knows? I hadn't seen it before. And the idea of having a very high speed person with a giant gun. Normally the giant gun is carried by a big heavy mech that moves slowly. So I'm like, wait, I can strip out just enough of everything so that I can have a really fast, lightweight mech that still can pack this giant gun on it. And as long as I can get out of line of sight, I'm pretty good. And my speed was enough that at a distance they would have trouble hitting me. So, Kearney with the cheese strats, yeah, it was a tournament, right? It was a tournament where you submit your mecha, and they verify that all the stats are correct, and then it's a 1v1, elimination bracket, and the damn judges cheated. They're turning off the terrain on me, It's like, come on, guys, but I liked that. It was fun because rather than you having to pick from a list of A, B, or C mechs to fight with, you get to customize it, and sitting there and thinking up strats and things like that. I really liked that, and so I applied that to Team Fortress, right? So I took that mentality of being able to customize your mecha and taking it into the Team Fortress world. And so neither of those ideas were original. Team Fortress wasn't my idea. BattleTech was not my idea, but that combination was, and it worked reasonably well. Over 1 million people have played my mod as the result of it. And the packaging game is not working. It works on the engine, but nothing on the score HUD is showing up on the screen. Navarro can talk for hours on Game Juice. Yeah. So you did this. You did package project Windows. It should copy over everything that you need. It's like when you launch it, it should just work. All right, I guess I'll download your project file when I'm not streaming. I don't want to eat up my bandwidth. So yeah, you have to start with that core passion, the thing that you want to see. And when you have a passion for something, it really helps you carry it forward. It gives you the motivation you need to do something. One of the hardest things in computer science, especially, is doing work for other people when it's not something you want to do. Like you go into work and what you really want to do is make new clouds. Like you're working for a flight simulator company and you want to make beautiful new clouds, volumetric clouds that have light reflecting on the inside. You're like super passionate about it and you want to make it. And your boss is like, no, we need to refactor this old code and rewrite code that hasn't been touched in 30 years. It's written in Russian, and we don't know how it works. You're gonna have to redo that because I'm your boss and you have to do it. And is your HUD tied to the game mode? Nice. And then you go, oh, damn it. And then you just sit there and just kind of twiddle your thumbs. And this is one of the reasons why modders are oftentimes more productive than development teams. Right? Because development teams are getting paid to do work. Modders are doing it for fun. So modders are far more productive than development people are. If you look at how much work's been done on Skyrim, there's far more work that's been done modding Skyrim than on the original Skyrim. Or Valheim, like there's been almost nothing added to Valheim since release, despite them making X millions of dollars. And if you look at what the modders have done with Valheim, it's amazing. Like they've turned it into like this fully fledged product, just on their own without getting paid for it. Minecraft mods too, yeah. And now they're trying to kill, the Java side of things on Minecraft. It's really, really disturbing. So yeah, so you start with passion, and then you put together a minimum viable product. And so for me, for Custom Team Fortress, the minimum viable product was the result of a weekend's work. And so I had enough experience. I had the tools down. Like I said, like you have to have your basic tools down. Like how do you play a sound? How do you put a model in the world? How do you spawn an entity? How do you destroy an entity? How do you, like those basic tools, you have to have the basic math down too. Like for the linear algebra stuff, how do I do a line from point A to point B? You subtract point B's position minus point A's position. That gives you a displacement vector, right? You have to have those tools in your toolbox, and then you can put together a minimum viable product. So for me, what I did was I started with Team Fortress's code, hit Control-Shift-F. I'm like, where is that? Because when you connect it, it would give you a menu of like all the different classes you can be. 1, scout. 2, sniper. You know? And so I just searched for, you know, well, I used grep. Grep is a Unix utility. So I typed grep, where 2 dot sniper. Where is that string? And boom, I found it. Okay, it's in that file. I open it up. I look at it. I'm like, okay. So the way that it works is that every half second it does a center print and it prints the entire menu to the screen. A center print will display a message over the center of the screen, and so they have a whole menu set up. They have a whole menu system, so that if you have the menu active, it'll keep sending the menu to you every half second or whatever the delay is, and so it'll just appear on the screen solid. Normally a center print's like, you've activated the door, and then it goes away. And so the Team Fortress people hacked it by just repeatedly sending, like if menu state active, then it just continually center prints it to you every so often on a timer. And so it simulates having a menu. There's no menus in Quake. There are in like, you know, Team Fortress 2, there's actually official menus and things like that. In Quake, there's not. They had to simulate that entire thing. And so it just prints this giant string of the different classes available. And then when you hit an impulse, like 5, key 5 is usually bound to impulse 5. Then the impulse processing system, they said if the menu is active, then steal that impulse. You know, don't switch to weapon 5, which is normally what happens, right? If you hit 1 normally, it switches to your axe. If you have the menu open, though, it has an if statement in there and says if the menu is active, then 1 goes, the 1 gets passed over to the menu handler, and the menu handler will check to see which menu is open. If it's the class menu open, then it says choose class 1, and it calls a function to try and make you a scout. There's a bunch of checks to see, can you become a scout? I don't know. You know, scouts can be banned. Like if you have a map can say no scouts are allowed on this one. That's something you can do in regular Team Fortress. Just have a, you know, like in Hunted, you know, you can't play a scout. So, you know, they had this whole system in place, and so what I did was I found the spot that I was looking for, right? Because you play the game, you're like, that's something similar to what I want. So what I want is that, but like the ability to customize a player. And so I modified that menu and added a new option at the bottom, 10 custom. So there's fortunately 1 slot left in the, you know, 1 through 9 were all taken, 10 was available. So I made a new option, added that in, and had it call my function instead. And that's where I hooked my code into the Team Fortress world. I didn't have to rewrite everything from scratch. I didn't have to change anything in Team Fortress. Basically, everything in Team Fortress was left the same. I took their menu and found the place of entry where, you know, you're choosing all the different classes, and there's a new option for custom because I added that string, and I made it so that when you hit impulse 0, then it detects it and calls my function instead of the normal change class function. If impulse equals 10, call, you know, Kearney's cool drop into custom class thing. And when you do that, then it erases basically everything you have. So it sets your health to 50. It takes away all of your weapons except for the axe. It just makes you a blank slate. And I guess I can show you rather than just telling you about it. But you know, and then it pops up a new menu. It sets your money to 10,000 or whatever. You know, we haven't talked about server info. We have. Yeah, so you can set a server info key, which customizes how much money you have. And so it grabs that, and if the server info key for money is set, it'll give you however much money the server has configured. Let me just pull up the actual code, and I can show you. And so I just created a new source code called custom.qc. And in order to add a new QC file, by the way, there's a, if we search inside of here, Control-Shift-F, preprogs.source. So there's actually a special file inside of here that I don't know that if I've talked about it, that actually has the list of all the different .qc files that go into your project. And so this is everybody that's actually going to compile. And so I had to add custom.qc to it. And then after that, I just had this function called drop to custom class gen, and you can see inside of the Team Fortress change class function, the when the user hits 0, I just added a little if statement up at the top. So before checking to see if they're a scout or a spy or whatever, I check to see did they hit custom, and if so, then it calls my function instead of doing the regular you're now a sniper, you're now a heavy weapons guy kind of thing. And so that was my hook, this spot right here. And you can see I left a little note there, William Kearney, and handle custom class restarting. And so, that's the that was my hook. That was where I got my minimal viable product going. And this function here, drop to custom class gen, strips everything off you, takes away all of your ammo, gives you 10 max ammo, like so if you don't buy anything related to rockets, you'll have at least 10 maximum rockets on you. So it takes away all of your grenades, takes away all of your flags, everything. So when you drop into custom class gen, it strips you of everything. And clean up everything, reset stripped. Yeah, there's a lot of setting things to 0 in here. Setting your gravity back on. Because there's a lot of things that can go bad. Because you can die, like, well, gravity's turned off, and then you'd float when you're respawning and stuff like that. How much demon blood you're carrying, Demon Slayer style, I don't know. Bedrock Minecraft disgusts me. Yeah. So all these things get set to 0. I set the player to be not solid. I set them to not take any damage, not take any damage, not take any damage, can't move, are not solid. So basically while you're customizing, people will respawn and they'll run right through you, and you'll see them, like if you're in the respawn room customizing, you'll see people just walking through you. And the reason why that works is because I set them to solid not. If I set them to solid, then people would be running into these invisible people that are recustomizing, and it would be really weird and awkward. And I think that may or may not have been an actual bug early on, where people are like, there's like invisible people in front of me, man. Max speed is set to 0. You can't move while you're buying things. That was also a bug where people figured out a way of moving while they were customizing, and then they would finish their custom build and they would be in the enemy team base and they would grab the flag and run out with it, which is kind of funny. Max health is set to 50, current health is set to 50, whatever I don't know what that is. Don't need to worry about that because that was later. And then hack alert. And then it sets the current menu. So remember how I said Team Fortress had a menu system? I didn't write this. I just hooked into it. And so I said set the current menu equal to menu sniper weapon. That's the first menu for buying things in Team Fortress, in custom Team Fortress. And so I call that, which will cause it to print over and over again to the screen. These are the menu items for buying a sniper. And it calls this function here, which prints menu for all of our sniper needs. And so this prints to this. This is actually the function that gets printed over and over again. But the reason why we had...
He's trying to call for...
I'm in class right now.
He's trying to tell...
Yeah, and so by setting the current menu to that...
that I'm going for a playdate with Duro right now.
You're going for a playdate with Duro? Oh, come here. I'll miss you, B. Be good, okay? Ada, remember no punching.
No eye gouging.
No eye gouging. No fish hooks.
Okay.
Okay. No kicking.
Okay.
No shin sliding. Okay.
Definitely.
Don't slide your feet down their shin.
And definitely no taking a dang axe against their Achilles heel.
Exactly. Yeah. No Dane axe on the Achilles heel. That's important. And also none of the Temple of Doom heart ripping. That's not allowed until you're at least 10 years old. Okay. Have fun.
Okay.
Temple of Doom, not allowed until she's 10, right?
Should we watch the movie? It's fine.
No, doing it in real life. You can't do the heart grab until you're 10.
The way to a man's heart is.
Through the sternum.
That's right.
That's right. Have fun. Okay. Yeah. So this function here prints the menu, and tells you how many dollars you have, and then as long as that menu is open, every time this is their menu code, and I just hooked into it. So every time you hit an impulse from 1 to 10 with a menu active, then it will call the Team Fortress people's menu code. Their menu code figures out which menu is open, and there's a lot of menus in the game. And it's like, oh, the sniper weapon's open? All right. Then pass the impulse. If they type 5, pass it to this function here. And that function, if you pick 5, it will buy the overcharge, sniper overcharge upgrade. Yeah. So, principal help. That was in the original, but basically, yeah. And so that was my hook. And so I started off by just making eight menus of stuff that just had the default Team Fortress stuff in it. You know, like the sniper rifle, none of this crazy extra stuff like sniper overcharge and OTR bullets and rocket shells and stuff. None of that. No Shinigami, Death God. Nope, none of that. Like the original stuff was just what was in Team Fortress, because that was a good place to start from. All the code for it had been written by them. And so I just did something like this. Like if you choose, I'm going to buy the sniper rifle, then it deducts the cost of the sniper rifle from how much money you have. It gives you the sniper rifle and the auto rifle. You can put the sniper rifle onto automatic mode, which isn't very good, but you can do it if you want. It increases the amount of shells you can carry by 75. It reprints how much money you have left, and that was added later, so don't worry about it. And then it reprints the current menu. And so if you hit it again, then it sells it. And so it deletes the sniper rifle and the auto rifle from you, reduces the amount of shells you can carry by 75, and prints the menu again. And so you can just go, and I just had this for the sniper rifle and the rocket. Originally, like all the basic weapons fit onto 2 screens: rocket launcher, nail gun, super nail gun, shotgun, double barrel shotgun, and then over time, as I added more and more features to the things, it grew. But for the minimal viable product, I just started with what Team Fortress had. I didn't have to code the sniper rifle. It was already in there. I didn't have to code the ass cannon. It was already in there. All I had to do was make it is that little hook where if I hit 6, it would buy the assault cannon if I had the money for it. If you have the money for it, then deduct the money and add the weapon. And I just did that for each of them. And I started off with just the first weapons, got all those working. Then I did the second set of weapons, got all those working. Then I added in speed and things like that, got those working, and just incrementally built it up until I had something that I had everything in Team Fortress on a menu. All the grenades, all of the special abilities, like the Scout has a scanner in Team Fortress 1. Hooks are powerful, yeah. And so just by hooking into an existing system, I didn't have to write all of this from scratch. I'm not capable. Maybe now I could, I guess, but I don't want to write all this stuff from scratch. Instead, I find you have to find that point of entry, right? That opening, right? Once you get in there, and once you get that menu appearing on the screen, and you get the things working, then everything else after that is actually pretty easy. Then it's just academic. Once you can purchase a sniper rifle, you can purchase a rocket launcher, you can purchase a grenade launcher. It just becomes a matter of copy paste at that point. Then once you have that, you test it, test everything thoroughly, test every option you have thoroughly. Try buying it, try selling it, then buying it, like whatever. There was some issues with like the max ammo things, because the code would if you there was some sort of bug where like these things weren't adding up right. So like I think I had the if you bought it, it gave you 75 shells, but if you sold it, it took away 70 shells. So every time you bought it and sold it, you would get like more max ammo or something like that. You know, there's all sorts of like weird bugs that crop up if you're not careful. And so you just have to test things thoroughly. And I had a roommate at the time who would sometimes play with me, give me ideas and things like that. But mostly I just had the server running. I had 2 clients up. I split screened it, and I'd play against myself on my own computer. I'd run out with a soldier on the right half of the screen. I'd run out with a scout on the left half of the screen and fight myself, and make sure that everything worked right. And once I got that, once I got all the basic Team Fortress stuff in, all the weapons, all the armor, all the speed, all the special abilities, all the grenades, then I had what I would consider a minimum viable product. Have fun, girl.
Oh, and I have one thing. What video game are you talking about?
I'm talking about my own game, the process I went through to make my game.
Ah, okay.
All right, see you, girl. And so,
Bye, I love you.
I love you too, girl. And so then I play tested, but this was a weekend. Like, this was literally just 72 hours of basically doing nothing but programming, And there were some bugs and things like that I had to resolve. It wasn't all as easy as I'm making it sound, but, within 72 hours, I had the nucleus for CustomTF in it. And then once I had the system in place, where I knew how to add another menu and how to switch between the different menus, and then after that, it just became a matter of adding more options of stuff to buy and stuff like that. But with the minimum viable product, I went and I found a LAN party where actually one of the guys from Valve was at. He was there, and I took it there. I'm like, hey, I got this new mod for Team Fortress. You guys want to play it? They're like, sure. And so they fired it up at the LAN party, and they loved it, and they bought me pizza. And the system administrator who worked at a local ISP, he's like, hey, do you mind if I put up a server for it? Sure, that'd be awesome. Because ISP, dude, high bandwidth, good server. So he ran the official CustomTF server for years, and it just kind of grew. It kind of grew from there. And so having a good starting point is really essential for making a game, because if people try out your game and it's just some crap indie game, it's gonna get deleted. Like, do you know how many games I have that are released, not even like indie games, just like released games that I've never played, let alone even know what they are? You know what I mean? Like, you've got a very limited amount of time to hook somebody on your game before they delete it. For something like Valheim, I had enough friends playing it that I was fairly confident it would be good, so I bought it. But that's sort of like a chicken and the egg problem. Like, how do you get that initial fan base to really embrace it? And the fact that stupid screen. Steam does not work when you have UE scaling on it. So garbage. Are you so terrible, Steam? Yeah, but like, if I go over to my game library here and just scroll around, I have no idea what Remember Me is. Okay, looks cool. It's got a cool banner. I've literally never played it. I have no idea what it's about. Yeah, I don't know how I own it. Right? Remnants of Isolation. I have no idea what game this is. I have no idea what it's about. I don't know who made it. Let's check the discussions section for it. The last pinned is 2015. Free key, bug. Is this game supposed to be silent? I don't know. So like, I have no idea what most of these games are, and that's the reality, is that people don't give indie games a second look. Like, if you have a big marketing budget, yeah, you can get people to buy the next Mass Effect. Mass Effect Andromeda sold reasonably well because people pre-ordered it. As an indie developer, though, you don't have that benefit, right? So you have to have something that hooks people immediately. And some indie people have done really well, and it's worth studying that. Is it Undertale, right? Undertale, which has some of the worst graphics of all time, did really well, right? So, the graphics are just literally garbage. Like they're just horrible. And yet, how do you guys have any of you played it? Do you know why it hooked people? Because like when I launch it, I'm just like, uh, you know. So why did it hook people? Maybe you know. Any of you play it? Let's see if any of you guys are on here. Collins, he's not here right now. He's played it. So it starts off with you fighting like this flower, and it looks like this like nice little daisy thing. You're like this lost orphan, and then the flower like turns out to be trying to kill you, and yeah, and so that was like right at the beginning, right where it goes from like Dust Trust. Yeah, like this is stupid Steam. Yeah, the level of graphics on there is just absolutely garbage, but it had a really memorable opening, right? This little flower thing here looks like a little cute little flower, and then it tries murdering you, right? And that was enough to like pique people's interests, you know, and to give it a shot and to see what it's up, you know. And a lot of people really like Undertale, you know, but I don't think it would have gone the time of day if it didn't have that really juicy, you know, hook at the beginning of it. Past the stone where one's moral and immoral actions determine the path. Yeah, there's a lot of retro games, right? And so retro games are very popular because the graphics are cheap to make, right? Like you don't have to have a AAA, you know, budget to make a retro game. You was it Dishonored? No. That was it. Disgraced, not Dishonored. Yeah, so this is, I think it's like an RPG maker game even. Like I don't even think it's anything fancy. Let's see, store page, I guess. And so you can see that the unique sandbox styled samurai themed role playing game. Yeah, it sounds great. It's actually a pretty basic game. I wouldn't necessarily recommend you play it. But you can see that, you know, it's just like basic 2D art. You know, they probably licensed from some asset store or something like that. And they built like this little RPG on top of it. I played it for about 6 hours and got tired of it. I got 60 reviews, you know, so lack of depth in every aspect of the game. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I have DLCs available for it. It's amazing. So you're technically, you know, there's like some things you can do, but it's pretty basic. But it was enough to like get me to buy it and to play it for at least 6 hours, you know. Partly because I just liked the idea of a sandbox RPG set in feudal Japan, and it turned out to kind of be a lie, but it was enough of a hook to get me to play it. Final Fantasy on the Game Boy, yeah, it has that. It definitely has that feel. But the reason why retro is popular is because you don't have to break the bank on art, right? If you try competing with the AAA studios on art, you know, you're gonna have a bad time, right? Because they have the best artists. Well, maybe not the best, but they've got good artists, and they've got a budget to hire lots of artists and music, and you know, BioShock Infinite's pretty old at this point, and it still looks, I don't know, pretty damn good. You know, it's what, 8 years old at this point, and it's still a pretty amazing looking game. Like I don't think I can do that. You know. Right? I couldn't. Nope. So, you know, the art direction, it's fantastic. The lighting, you know, everything about the art and the music in it. It's a really, really well made game. But, yeah, and so people make retro games just because they don't want to compete on that level. You know what I mean? So, music in retro games is simpler. Yeah, you can have chip tunes and things like that as well. So, yeah, so basically you want to get your minimum viable product. You want to get some buzz, ideally, about it. There is a if you feel that your pinball game is stupid, that's fine. It's IS-50. You don't have to release it to the world, but it's also good to just get feedback too on it. And so they have what are called game jams, and I've had students do these before, and that's actually a nice way of getting some publicity for you. They give you like a day or 2 days or 3 days to make a game, and so you work in a team, artists and coders and things like that. Feel your pinball game is stupid, worked hard on it, days and days of coding. Yeah, it's good. It's a good experience for you. It really is. I'm not being sarcastic. It's actually good for you. Like, the more experience you get, the better you get. It's just how it is. And so you can see all these different game jams here, and then they have tower defense jam, and power up jam too, and all these kinds of things. And so like if you were to join the tower defense jam over here, submissions open from May 7th to May 14th. You can join the jam. It's about exploring the genre more and inventing new and exciting ideas. Any theme you like, non-violent themes are especially welcome. Must be a tower defense game or an obvious twist of it. You can work alone or in teams, playable on Windows, ideally without installing, even better as a web game. Should be created during the jam, have fun and dare to be weird. So you get rated on these things here. And the prize is you get a picture of a cat. But the thing about a game jam is that if you win a game jam, for one thing, that's good resume material, right? But also there's reporters that sort of watch these events, and they'll say, hey, there's this cool game called Surreal Sands, made by Zach DeFuria and Matt Muller, and you get a little write-up about it, and maybe people get interested in the game, and maybe they buy it, or more likely it's like you just get a nice notch on your resume and things like that too. And so these things are good ways of building XP if you're serious about doing games. Like anything you're going to do in life, if you want to be successful and you don't want to plan on winning the lottery, which doesn't seem like a good strategy, like everything takes effort. Everything you want to get good at takes effort. Nobody becomes a black belt in a week or a year even. Everything you have to grind. And the good news about grinding on video games is that you're making games, you're building something, you get to be creative. Whereas grinding at getting good at, like, I don't know, doing X-ray spectrography or something like that, maybe it's fun for some people. It doesn't seem very fun for me. In my music class, I wrote a 6-minute song and then applied my sample set to it. I like tower defense games, balloons. Yeah, winning the lottery is definitely my 5-year plan. Yeah, it's you do you. But what I found is that if you just build up your competency in a lot of different fields, if you get good at coding, especially, if you develop that sense of game design and like balance and like what makes games fun, that helps a lot too. And it's something I can only encourage. You can't really teach it. But like that's why we played Dune last week, was to try and get you to understand like what makes this game like there's something good about it, that weird feeling of being broken as all hell and also balanced is a really neat twist, especially for a game that came out in '79. And so grinding, and so there's a lot of game jams, and maybe you don't quite have enough skill right now to do one of these things, but take IS-50B and we will keep working on your skills. And like I said, next semester I'm planning on not being quite as coding heavy as it was this year, but probably do more AI stuff too. And so you do game jams, you start winning them, people start noticing you, and then you get a job offer. The hardest thing in game development is getting your foot in the door, right? The games industry is huge. It's like it's like the size of Hollywood, and they're always looking for new talent and new ideas and things like that. But there's a lot of people out there, and a lot of people can't do anything, right? And so once you prove that you can actually produce, once you've demonstrated you can make something and follow deadlines, and things like that, then, you get a job. And then once you're in and you release, some new AAA title, then you get that notch added to your resume as well. Now I've got 3 AAA titles under my belt. I'm going to apply for a senior developer position over at Obsidian or something, and RIP, Obsidian, now owned by Microsoft, I think. I can watch you on my Nintendo Switch. Right? And so, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that, start small, and it'll be overwhelming if you try to think of all the things that have to be done that go into a game. So just focus on like the smallest bit you can think of possible at once and work on that. And then get it to a point where people can play it and see that it's fun. And if they like it, then you can expand it out and start adding, like I did. I added, I don't know how many menus of options there are now. And you have to keep playtesting it and bug fixing and trying it in competitive and casual scenarios to make sure it works in both of those environments, because casual players have very different needs than competitive people, right? So you have to try it with both groups. A lot of times they'll only playtest games with like competitive gamers who know everything that's going on and stuff like that, and then the game is like obtuse to the new players. Like if you play Age of Empires 3, it's utterly baffling to new people. Right? Why does this cannon do extra damage to other cannons, and this cannon does extra damage to cavalry, and this cannon does extra damage to people? There's no visual clue in the game that it should be that way. It just is. You just have to know it. And there's oftentimes no tooltip that tells you that this is an anti-cavalry gun, and this gun is an anti-infantry gun, and this one is an anti-infantry gun that only works against heavy infantry but not light infantry, which makes no sense whatsoever because they're bullets. And so games like Age of Empires 3, I think they play tested a lot with competitive people who were really caring about game balance and things like that, and they didn't realize that the game is utterly baffling to new players who have no idea why their army just died. They just know that it did. So you have to test it with both. Yeah, and so that's it. Start slow, go slow, right? Start small, go slow, grow slow, go slow, grow slow. Just work on a little bit at a time. But you need to maintain that motivation. You need to maintain that passion. You got a vision for something. You want to make it happen. So that's why passion's so important. That's why modders, like I said, do better than professional coders sometimes, because when it's just a job for you, then a lot of times you have less passion than when you're modding somebody else's product that you really care about. Construction script, yeah, that's a really cool thing too. Okay, so that's my advice on like where you guys should go next. Honestly, like if you want to do game development, I mean, I guess maybe some of you are just taking this class, I don't know, for the hell of it or something, or to get better at computer science or something. But you also don't have to become a professional game developer either. Making games for fun is fun. I've made various games over the years just for the hell of it. It's fun. So, yeah, grow your skills. Okay, so hobby games, yeah, nerds. Yeah. That was just a little solitaire game that multiplayer solitaire, I guess. That the guy who, I think the Zachtronics people made that, something like that. It's free. It was just like a game they made in house, and they just decided to release it. Okay, lighting is still building. My goodness, it's taking forever. Okay, so what do you guys want to learn? I've got most of your Lave and Bacalar and Dahlin. Do you guys have something for me now on the Unreal Engine front? I would like to get that graded so we can. Oh yeah. Why don't you demonstrate your pinball game, and then I can go over the Quake C side of things, because I've been I've read over, like I said, over my surgery break video that I've read over all your proposals, and I've got helpful advice, I think, for all of you. So yeah, Span, why don't you go ahead and share your screen, and we can pull it up here. Your group gave up, really? You got to do something. You got to, if you want to start over with a new idea, go for it. You got to do something, or you're not going to pass the class. Got to motivate. It's the name of the game. Okay. If you want to work individually, that's acceptable as well. Okay. Make a little role-playing game. Envision a Dungeons and Dragons scenario. Make a little medieval village. Have a couple puzzles to solve. Like anything, man. You got to give me something here to work with. If you don't want to work in a group, that's fine too. I understand that working in a group can be hard, especially in a pandemic. Normally, when I teach this class, everyone's in the same room, which makes it a lot easier. It's hard to coordinate things online. So if you guys want to work individually, that's fine too. Just you got to give me something. Yeah, come on. All right, so span, watch stream. All right, let's pop this out over here. All right. So you have that. So you built the whole level using geometry. Let's unmute you. All right. There we go. So Span, you're unmuted.
Yeah. I mean, how do you unmute my sound? You hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. I'm going to restart the game, hit escape, and then hit play. You see it there, and then click on that. And then use the space bar to launch the thing.
Okay, so space bar pulls down on the handle.
Yeah.
Okay, and then when you release it, it lets go of it. It launches it.
Yeah, I'll do it right now.
Okay.
The space bar.
Okay, and so that's physics right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got a little bit of sound on there every time you hit and it flashed too. Notice they flash when I.
Oh yeah.
And you see I got scoring on there and everything.
Yeah. So you turned on a light or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
I added like 6 light spheres on there to light different parts of the board. Made a kind of reflective coating. If you look real close at the back thing, I tried to put a picture back there of like an anime character on the very back of the wall right there. But you can see it as I zoom in on it.
You might want to change the timer on that. Okay, all right. I see. All right.
But it works. It actually keeps score. Look at this. Watch the scoring.
Yeah. Okay.
And it actually works. And I use the left and right control buttons for the flippers.
Okay. So every time it hits a thing and
yeah, sometimes the ball will just disappear off the table and just disappear, like it goes through some of my geometries, and I haven't figured out how to fix that. But when that does it, I have to restart it. That's what I mean by it. I need to debug it.
Mm.
But I like it. I think it's a work in progress. I'm gonna add some more stuff to it, and add the sound effects and stuff. And
yeah, it looks.
Notice
nice.
when the ball falls out on the end, that's called the reset zone. A new ball comes up in the plunger area.
Yeah. Okay. If the ball's falling out through the world, what you might want to do is put a zone underneath the the pinball table, and just have it teleport back towards where the anime face is or something, and just have it print a message like Super Rainbow Mode unlocked or something like that to make it turn the bug into a feature.
Yeah, I think about doing that. Yeah.
Nice. I like it, dude. Very cool.
All right.
Nice. Well done. Everyone, round of applause. All right.
I like the way those. You see that blue how it lights up whenever it hits the. I use that little technique we learned in the materials class, how to make the materials for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool.
That's why I can't figure out why I can't get it to what's that word called? To package, because that would be perfect, if it was packaged. But I made that using geometry. I even figured out how to use additive and subtractive blocks to cut out some of these holes up here.
Oh, nice. So you did the constructive solid geometry. Nice.
Yeah, and then use this thing up here. It's usually up here by the. It looks like a mountain there, and there's a little hole there. Let me see if I can. get a full screen on this thing. Where's my mouse cursor? It just disappeared. Here it is. If I go full screen on it, I use this up here to to like cut stuff and shape some things and added my materials and ran this angle, then clicked control the alt and drug it over, flipped it. Doing the the transform and on mirror on X axis. I learned a lot about this software, how to use it, and all the different things, and about the making your own assets folders and your blueprints folders and for the flipper and stuff like that. And I mean, then you got your construction script there. You put all that in there and I learned a lot how to use this software in this class. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm really eager to go further with it.
Yeah, projects are one of the best ways of learning, and like you can sit there and listen to me like talk about materials all day long, but it's like when you actually make it, it's like it all kind of clicks, right?
Yeah, and I mastered using this blueprint thing. It's easy now. I know how to get all the stuff in there and how to make reroute nodes to make it look so much neater. That looks pretty neat,
Nice. That's very cool.
I enjoyed this.
All right, cool.
Okay, well that's my game.
Well done.
Yeah, here's I got the pinball player controller. I mean, there was a lot of stuff I had to do on it to get it working.
Yeah.
But as you can see, I had a lot of things going on there.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of components that go into a game. The sound, the blueprints, the HUD, doing all the modeling. And I liked how you were doing the constructive solid geometry as well.
Yeah.
Which, I sometimes teach in this class. I don't think I did this year.
Yeah.
Let's see. Exit full screen. There we go. Okay. Close this. Okay. Share screen. Okay. All right.
And that's for our group. Jonah helped with it too, and the other guy in our group. We all worked together on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who was in your group?
Jonah Stafford, and I can't think of the other guy's name. Then someone else added to my group.
Guess not.
And Julia Hernandez was in it too.
Did he participate in it?
Yeah.
He did? Okay.
A little bit. But we all worked together on it.
All right.
I scrapped the original idea I had about because everything kept messing up on it. So we decided to go with the pinball game.
Okay. All right. Yeah, looks great. So let's see. So as far as some of you guys doing the modding, if you want to do the modeling stuff, like I said in the video on Tuesday, you're gonna need to install Blender, and you're gonna need to install the Blender Quake MDL plugin for it. If you're gonna edit existing assets, then you might need to get what's called Pack Explorer or something like that. So some of the assets in Quake are zipped up. Let's see.
I'm gonna go ahead and mute my mic now.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I already got access to it. How do I log in? There. Okay. So there are these things called pack files, and they're basically zip files, and they just have different folders within them. So they could have a sound folder inside of them and a maps folder inside of them. That way, it makes it easy to distribute mods. You just put a new pack file in, and I don't know. I mostly don't mess with them myself, because if you connect to a server and you don't have 2bob1 on it, it just downloads to you automatically, and I just don't worry about it. I just zip up the entire directory and send it to students. But if you're going to be modifying assets, some of those assets you're going to be trying to modify might be in a pack file. So you'll need to get a tool called Pack Explorer. And that will allow you to edit, pull files out of these pack files. So in progs, all these are the MDL files. Those are your meshes, basically. If you're going to be editing those. And then there's some sprites, not too many, because sprites kind of look terrible. A sprite is like a 2D image. And that you can probably edit in Photoshop, I'd imagine. Plasma, yeah, it just looks really terrible because it's like this 2D artwork, you know, flying away from you in the world. It just looks kind of garbage. The only thing that does look good is like the laser sight. That works okay, I guess. Basically everything else in the game is a MDL. So if you use Blender and get the MDL plugin for it, then you can edit those if that's what you want to do for your mod. For audio stuff, we've kind of gone over that before, but basically use precache. Oh, you have to pass in the whole name. That's annoying. Yeah, you have to use the precache sound function, and just find some place that is doing precaching. Usually it'd be, I don't know, weapons.qc precache sound world.qc. So you can see it's just precaching all the stuff. Just find one similar to what you're doing, copy, paste, good to go. And then to play a sound, you just call the sound function. And so you can, if you want to update the audio effects in the game, go for it. It seems like a pretty straightforward and easy mod to make. You can put in background music if you want. Quake actually has a pretty good background soundtrack made by Trent Reznor of the Nine Inch Nails, who's a big fan of Doom and Doom 2, and so he worked with id Software on making an audio track for Quake. And so when you played Quake, it would actually spin your CD player in your drive to play the appropriate audio track. Yeah. Sound models, mapping. I recommend not making a map. You could if you want. What do people use these days anyway? Quake 1 mapping tools. What do they even use these days? The ones I have are probably from the 90s. Initial release 2017 Crafter for FT Quake. It's not even working. Nah. Okay. Okay. Sports Quake. Yeah, you might want to try this one then. So you can make maps and have people run around and play on them. Seems like fun. Same kind of idea as Unreal Engine. You know, you just build stuff, and they do a lot of constructive solid geometry in these things as well. So CSG. For those of you who heard me mention that a second ago, it allows you to build complicated shapes by adding and subtracting shapes together. Right, so you can take a cube and add a sphere to it and glue them together essentially, and then subtract out. You know, you glue these cylinders together and then subtract them out and create these really nice and complicated shapes using smaller primitives. So you can intersect and union, things like that, and so you can create actually really interesting looking things using, you know, fairly simple starting points. And Unreal Engine has support for that. And Quake does as well, at least the map editors I used to use do. I'm out of date on that. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk about today was AI. So some of you might be interested in doing AI for this, and that could be fun. close out of it? I did, didn't I? Okay. So let me show you how AI works. And this will also probably be interesting to you if you want to do AI in Unreal Engine as well. Unreal Engine has better support for some things like nav meshes. With nav meshes, there's a node called like navigate to point, and then it'll find the shortest path around obstacles that will take you to a point. It's the wrong Visual Studio, isn't it? Right click, open with code. Why did it launch Visual Studio 19? But AI is not bad to do in Quake C as well. So, go away. Go away. Oh, and then after the person finishes building their thing, they hit done, and then there's a function that puts you into the world, and so it goes through all the different things you purchased, cleans up all of your all the things. If you have this, and it does this, and if you have this, it does this, and if you have money left over, then it purchases extra health for you, and so there's a couple things that happen when you hit done, and then it puts you into the world. So if you want to make a AI, the starting point that I'd look at is the demon. The demon is your kind of go-to enemy monster because it's got melee attack, it's got a ranged attack, it can jump, it doesn't just walk at you. So that's where I would kind of go to start learning how AI works in here. So these, again, this is weird Quake C stuff. You're not going to see this in any other environment. But basically, these are frames of animations, right? So it has an animation, stand 1, stand 2, stand 3, stand 4. It's like JoJo's or something. And it'll switch the mesh on the demon to the first frame of an animation and say the next frame of animation will be stand 2. When that happens, it sets the frame of animation to stand 2. Says the next frame will be stand 3. This is a weird syntax you only see in Quake C, so don't worry too much about it. But it calls AI stand over and over again. And so there's common AI functions for all these different monsters. If you look at the Shambler source code, the Shambler is the big ogre thing that shoots lightning. It's got AI stand calling AI walk, and this is how far it walks, right? So with every frame of animation, sometimes it can walk faster, sometimes it'll walk slower. Got AI walk, AI stand, AI run calls all over the place with daemon.qc. You can see that there is a likewise how far it walks, and there's a constant that you can make demons go faster or slower if you want. So there's common AI functions. AI stand, AI walk, AI run, AI face, which turns towards somebody. These are the frames for jumping, and when it's jumping the world, I guess it'll rotate to face you, which is kind of cool. Jump, 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 jump. It's attack. It's got attack animations. AI charge, used for attacking. This is used for throwing fireballs. It's got a ranged attack, like I said. It'll throw fireballs at you. When it gets hit, it'll call demon pain. Sometimes it's random. So when you put damage into a monster, they'll flinch sometimes and cause them to not attack. They just kind of rock back. When they die, it calls these frames of animation. Melee attack just calls demon attack 1. Okay, so basically up here is all the different frames of animation, and there's functions that are tied to them. So AI stand gets called over and over again. So okay, so what is this AI stand thing here? Well, it checks to see if it's in lava. It is, it dies, I think. It calls the find target function, which tries to see if there's anybody it can attack. And if it can't find anyone, then it will sit around for a little while. But if enough time has gone by, then it will start walking. And that's it. So that's your standing around monster thing. AI turn. If it can't find a target, then it just returns. Otherwise, it will call change yaw, Remember, there's pitch, roll, and yaw. Yaw is, like rotating towards an enemy in the world, like your normal turning. So every time AI turn gets called, each one of those frames of animation that calls AI turn, it rotates a little bit towards the target that it has. And so if there's no target, then it does nothing. But if it has a target, then it will rotate to face the target. So it doesn't just immediately, around at it. AI walk. Again, it checks to see if it's in lava. If it is, it dies. And how far it's going to move. If it's tranquilized, it moves slower, whatever. So does it see a player? No. Okay, return. Otherwise, it will, don't worry about tranquilized. Otherwise, it will move towards its target. And so this is a function that is built into the engine. And so this is similar to the Unreal Engine nav mesh thing. So it is a function used for AI to move towards something, and the engine will move them towards something. So this is how far they should move. And they move towards whatever their target is. And so find target. Find target. Look around. It's called. And so when the AI is searching for target, it does a find radius. So searches for all entities within 2,500 units, pretty big radius. And it says for every entity, every actor within 2,500 units, then checks to see if they're a teammate. If they're a monster and their health is over 0, if they're not a teammate, then we found a target. Basically, what it's doing, it's sweeping through everybody in the area and seeing if they're visible. So, and if they're not us, right? So it's going to find everybody that's not us and is visible to us. And the first time we find a target that is visible to us within this radius, we got a target to be 1, and the person that we saw gets returned from the function. So look around gets called here. So if we spotted somebody, we've got a target. If the target's us, we don't have a target, return false. If it's already our enemy, return false. If it's the world, return false. Otherwise, what it's going to do is it's going to set the enemy. So every AI has one enemy that they're currently locked onto. And so when you call move towards target, it will move towards the enemy. The engine will actually move the demon however distance you pass in towards their target. And so the target is hard-coded as being the dot enemy field. So if you set this thing over here, this sentry gun, to be an enemy, and you call move to target, then every frame the demon will move towards that sentry gun. Okay. And so that's the function called find target. And find target gets called a lot, but there's actually code in there I just saw that it flips a coin and doesn't do it half the time, just to save on CPU utilization, which could probably be taken out these days. Although it is funny to be able to run past a demon without them noticing you. So every so often it'll wake up, it'll look around for target, and then maybe it'll call the walk function. Demon 1 walk. And so if it's been idle for a while, then it'll stand up and it'll kind of walk around a little bit. And then, yeah. So, yep, and that'll go in a loop. When it jumps here, 4 frames in, so it turns to face. It's like when it's about to do a jump, it actually spends 3 turns rotating to face you, and then it calls this thing here. It turns to face you a little bit more. It sets a touch function on itself. So it says when the demon impacts you, if it hits you in the air, it'll call this function. So the demon hits you in the air while it's charging, it does a ton of damage to you. It hits you hits you with its charge attack, essentially. Make vectors says get the forward vector again. This computes the forward, the right, the up vectors. It moves itself up off the ground, so it is now flying. It is now 1 centimeter up off the ground. If it's tranquilized, it doesn't jump very far. This was all layered on later. Otherwise, its velocity is set to be the direction it's looking, times 600, so it's moving 600 units forward, and then it adds 250 units of up. And so the whichever direction it's looking, it adds 250 in the z direction, upwards. And yeah, and so that will basically have it move in an arch. So it leaps forward like this. If it gets stuck, I don't know why we used has sentry, but if it gets stuck, that flag is set to true, and its velocity goes up even more to try and get it unstuck. If it gets stuck on a ramp or something like that, it'll try jumping again, but with even more upwards velocity next time, because on ramps and things like that, like it would hit the ramp, and so it tries jumping up higher if it got stuck. Why it has Tesla? I like Teslas, and it's a float. Okay. If it's on, if Jello water is set, then the demons bounce off the Jello water. If it is on the ground, then it's no longer on the ground, so that the physics engine takes care of it properly. And then it will fly through the air for a few frames. So after it jumps, the next thing that takes place is demon jump 5. And so the demon should at this point be in the air flying towards you, so the game gives you 4 frames of animation with the thing just kind of flying through the air like this at you. And if it lands, then let's see, fast teleportation. Yeah. So it gets it detects if it got stuck halfway through its jump here. And then after it finishes the jump, it moves back into run mode. So if it lands without hitting anything, then it just keeps running. If it does hit something, then the touch function gets called, demon jump touch. And it checks to see if it's in the water. This is an odd way of doing it. You can do point contents, I think. Be a little better than that. It turns to face its enemy one more time. So after it hits somebody... Oh, no, that's water. Okay, this one. So if I'm dead, don't do any damage. Yeah, like I said, there was this weird bug where the demon heads would still be alive and trying to bite people. Because its health was less than 0, but the AI code was still running on it. So... if it hits Jello water, it bounces. Okay. So, yeah. So if the demon does a jump attack at you and it hits you, it calls this function. So if the other person can take damage, is that like a normal player, but not like a ramp or something like that? If the other person can take damage, if we are traveling at a high speed, this is vector length, right? And so it feels weird if the demon's moving really slowly with its claws, and it does a huge amount of damage. And so the amount of damage it does, well, it can only damage you if it's actually moving at speed. If it gets stuck, its jump attack doesn't do anything. So if it's moving at speed, then it does between 120 and 150 damage. If the other person has a power-up that reduces damage from demons, they take 20% less off of that. And then this is how we do damage to people. We're damaging the other person. We are the person inflicting the damage. This maybe should be self.owner, I don't know. And it's going to be doing 120 to 150 damage, and it's doing melee damage. So all damage in CustomTF is typed, and you can have armors against different types of damage. And so now this will, if you have protection from melee damage, it will protect you from demons clawing. Okay. And coming out of this next line for demon head hopping action. There's the bug. If you want to put that bug back in, just comment that line out, and you'll see the demon heads jumping around. So this is saying if the next thing we're going to do is to delete ourselves, then return. So, all right. If we are on the ground, then it turns on the stuck jump functionality. We no longer damage people with our touch. This is only when the demons are leaping forward do they actually damage you by touching them. When they're just walking around on the ground, they don't damage you by touching them. So we switch out which touch function is being called. The touch function for this is different from, when you're just walking around. So now that we're walking around again, we set the touch function back to monster touch, so it doesn't hurt people to touch us anymore. We set the next frame of animation to be demon 1 jump 1, and it's going to try and jump again. So if it detects that it got stuck, then it turns that flag on, it turns off the touch function, and then a few frames later it's going to leap again. This time it's going to leap higher, trying to get out of whatever has caused it to be stuck. And if we get out of that, then we turn has sentry off. So we are no longer in the stuck jump mode. Our touch function is back to monster touch, which again doesn't do damage. And our next frame of animation is demon 1 jump 11, and we're good. So that is the demon's jump attack, and it's all tied in with these frames of animation and stuff like that. And the only other thing, and we've seen how AI looks for people. It basically just does a find radius. So how does the AI work? It does a find radius, finds everybody within 2,500 centimeters, sees if there's a line of sight to them. If they are, and they're an enemy, congratulations, you have a target. It sets a .enemy variable on them that's that guy, and then the AI will move to attack them. It'll walk forward, it'll run towards them, it'll face towards them, it'll jump at them, and it'll do whatever it can to kill that enemy. If there's 2 enemies, it'll pick one of them, more or less at random. Okay. And there's only one other thing I want to show you, which is how you do projectile attacks. So here we've got different frames of animation on the demon. The demon will throw fireballs at people as well. It's not part of the normal. It's not part of normal Quake. Normal Quake, the demons don't have a ranged attack, but this makes them more interesting. So you can't just kite them forever. So these demons will occasionally shoot fire at people, and here's the code for that. So it just passes in 1 or -1 whether or not it's the right claw or the left claw that is shooting the fire. So AI face, again, the demon will turn to face whoever it is its enemy is. It will walk towards them a little bit, 12 units. Displacement vector. Enemy origin minus self origin, that's the displacement vector showing how far away they are. Vector to angles says what rotation is needed to be pointed at them. And then that gives us a forward vector pointing at them. So we could be looking this way, but the direction towards them might be off center a little bit because we don't rotate. We don't rotate to exactly look at them, right? We rotate at a certain speed. So they might actually be a little bit off center. And so this make vectors function sets the vector forward and the vector up and the vector right. And so we've got a displacement vector from us to them. And then this converts it into a rotation. And then this gives us a forward vector, a right vector, and up vector. Okay. And so basically the origin is going to be our origin plus 10 units ahead and 20 units either to the right or 20 units to the left, depending on whether we're using the right claw or the left claw to throw the fireball. So that is the origin. The direction it's going to go in is the forward vector. So again, the forward vector is set by this. So we have a displacement vector towards the enemy. We normalize it to get a unit vector pointing in their direction. And then we are going to add a little bit of randomness to it so that it wiggles a little bit up, a little bit down, a little bit left, a little bit right. And so the demons don't have perfect accuracy, especially over long ranges. They'll miss. They're not great shots. It's like stormtrooper aim. So we then create a new entity. This is going to be the fireball. The owner of it is the demon. The movement type is fly missile, which means it's not affected by gravity. It's solid, so it can collide with things. The rotation on the fireball is equal to the direction it's pointed in. When this fireball hits something, it calls a function demon fire touch, which is just going to damage them. You can see what that looks like real fast. So it just does between 60 and 100 damage. If it hit the sky, it removes itself. Otherwise, it basically does, when it hits, it does fireball damage. It explodes. The death message. So every weapon in the game has its own death message. That's why when you kill somebody, it'll say, so-and-so was killed by the tranquilizer gun. So-and-so was killed by the rocket launcher. There's different death messages, and that is saying the demon fire death message. Class name, everything has a class name so that the game code can handle it. This is probably ignored by pretty much everything, but you can make an ability that says, if I hit space and there's demon fire within 300 units of me, delete it, or something like that. So you can have like a crusader that can hit a button to erase all demon fire in the world or something like that if you want it. So that's why we use class name. It allows us to do things in code, like find all by class name in Unreal Engine. In 6 seconds, if the fireball that the demon throws hasn't hit anything in 6 seconds, we just remove ourselves. That's it. Again, you don't want to have entities just like lying around. We set the model on it to be a lava ball, so it's a fireball that comes out. Its size is set to 0, but it is solid, so it'll contact things. Its origin is set to be the origin up here, either right arm or left arm. And its velocity is set to be whatever direction we came up with. The direction towards the enemy with a little bit of randomness in there, times 1,000. And that's it. And that's everything you need to know to make an AI. Basically, there's a lot of common AI routines. AI think, AI touch, AI walk, AI run, AI jump, that are shared among all the AI things. So if you wanted to make an AI creature, you could just start with, I would say, the daemon code and just go from there. It's not. You could probably look at the grunty as well. But that's the grunty is a lot more complicated. That's the bot. Somebody wrote like a pretty good bot. Grunty Part 3, axing people. Grunty goes psycho. I didn't write this code. Grunty Part 2, running around. Grunty is charging about the place. Grunty Part 1, standing around. Grunty is standing around having a good time. Grunty is standing with his axe or other melee weapon. So you can, the fun bit, so you can look at how this bot was made. I didn't make it, but this is a fully functional bot. Works out pretty well. So that's our lecture for today. A little bit on AI and a little bit on motivating you guys. Hopefully, I want to see all you guys turn in a Quake mod by the end of the semester. There's no final for this class. So just have a mod done by the end of the semester. I can't grade things after the semester's over. So, I've been fairly lenient on deadlines this whole semester, but the end of the semester is, that's, the grades go in, right? And that's it. So, yeah. So have at least something to me. It's like in my Japanese class. I don't want to do a speech. Just give me something. Give me something so I can give you some points so you don't fail. You know what I mean? So in this class, just give me something. You don't have to do something extraordinary. I want you guys to demonstrate to me like you're getting it, that you can make a game, you can make a mod, you're working with the tools that I've given you. That's all I want to see. Okay? Just make me happy. Make me proud. All right? So, Dalin, Vacalar, Lave, please just do something for the next class. Make a map, and just put some guns in it or something, And for the rest of you guys, your mod proposals all sound good to me. Just start cracking on it. We got 2 weeks left in the semester basically to get it done. Don't wait to the last minute to get some last minute things in. I'm trying to kind of go over all the bases right now, so you have plenty of time to work on it. I don't like stressing students out. When does 50B need to get the mod proposals in? I think by last Tuesday. But it's fine. I was unconscious, I think, during class last time. So, oh no, not for 50B. I was unconscious during 50A last time. It's exciting. Surgery is so much fun. Okay, so that's it for today, guys, and I will see you guys next week.